Oh, whoops. I didn't realize I was live. Well, I'm live. Hello. Is the audio okay today? Actually, let me just check. Because if it's not, I want to fix it really quick and hopefully not break the stream again. Nope, that's previous stream. Oh, what the fuck? Okay. Yay! Okay, good. So, sorry about yesterday. What happened was, well, okay. So what happened was, there was choppy audio, and I confirmed it, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I tried unplugging and replugging my mic, and then I did the nuclear option, which was to reboot the computer. Uh, it's probably the color temperature. It's more purple, but it's kind of pinkish purplish. It's not nearly as purple as the purple um, from the Cornish Zen, but it's pretty purple. I mean, I could also be it could also be the white balance of my lamps because I'm those that's the only light source I have. So whatever, but it looks like the camera's actually picking it up pretty well. So yeah, this is not the production color though. As far as I know, the production Zaphods will be black PCB. These are prototype PCBs. I was really excited when he was like, or when Pete was like, "Oh hey, I'm gonna do a small run of prototypes in purple," and I was like, "Gimme!" So I jumped on that really fast. Uh, anyways, so yesterday what happened was spotty audio or choppy audio. I rebooted. Rebooting killed the stream. So then I had to start up another stream, which was going to be annoying because I was going to have to figure out how to reshare it. The chat was still open, but I couldn't get into it. It was a pain in the ass. And then the worst problem was that the audio was still choppy, and I didn't know why. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just. Oh, and then finally, my neighbor is doing construction in her basement, which the building I live in has like it's U shaped, and the basement is kind of on the outside of the U, and it's like a big tunnel, right? The dividing walls between the basements between the units are just like a couple of pieces of 2x4s with some boards. They're not really meant for isolating sound or anything like that. It's just a physical barrier. So she had construction going on next door, and the construction workers were talking, which was getting just picked up clear as a bell by the mic, and then banging on stuff. And they were there for a couple of hours. It's going to be really annoying. So I was like, okay, screw it. I'm going to call this. We're not going to stream today. So, first of all, sorry for that. But I did figure out at least one thing, and that is that this is what caused my choppy audio. So this is just a camera with a really tight lens on it. It's a, USB microscope camera. And for whatever reason, it being plugged in was making the audio choppy. And I found that out by looking up a YouTube video on how do I deal with choppy audio during YouTube streaming, like what could be the problem or whatever. And the audio wasn't even working in that video. It would come in uh, that like it was like every couple of seconds you'd hear a clip of audio. So I was like, okay, so it's there's something else going on. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. And I went and I unplugged the camera, and audio, boom, immediately returned to just fine. So I was assuming that it was gonna, or that was the problem, that it was gonna be fixed and everything. So I'm glad that that did fix it. I'm not really sure if that's a like it always will do that anytime I use this, or if that was because it's been plugged in for a week and running, and I don't know. There could have been a number of things I could have tried, but at the very least, like, I found out that that was a problem, so that gives me some testing to do because I want to be able to use this or something like it, because when I'm like looking at LEDs really close with my loop, like, it's really hard to see through that with a camera. So it's not like I can be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and you can see the same thing I'm doing. I mean, I guess you can kind of see it, and it would be better if the batteries weren't dead. But I was like, you know, it'd be kind of cool just to have a dedicated camera and I can kind of point at stuff. This, I don't like this that much, and I just realized I have autofocus on. Um, I don't like it that much because it's a little too close. So you really have to be flat against the board, and then like a diode like this fills the whole frame basically. So it's a little more than I want in terms of zoom. Um, okay, did that disable autofocus? It did, and we've got a good focus. Cool. Um, so I still might get something different, but I want to see if it's like a problem with this particular device or a problem with, you know, the computer isn't fast enough to handle two 1080p streams and then encode it and send it back out, which is entirely possible because it's doing it all in software. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, so hopefully everything goes well today. The only thing I'm worried about today, because I know there's no construction next door. I talked to my neighbor. It's not going to be any construction next door. The only thing I'm really worried about is that it's supposed to be get up to the high of 106 degrees Fahrenheit here today, and it's already 90. Means everybody, including myself, has their air conditioners on full blast, and our grid is not really meant for that. So there's a chance that I might lose power at some point, which would put an end to the stream because everything in here runs on wall power. I don't have batteries for any of it, except for the network equipment, which is on a dead UPS. So the battery is actually dead in the UPS. So it doesn't have backup power either. So yeah, anyways, fun times. And let's get started, I guess. That's enough pre-roll. We got 8 people watching. Sweet. Okay, so today, if all goes well, we'll be building a Zaphod keyboard. The Zaphod is a 3x5 plus 2 unibody split keyboard designed by Pete Johanson of ZMK fame. And it's a PCBA board. Like, this is actually mine. Whoops. A little magnetic USB adapter. But it's meant to be wireless first. So it has a wireless controller. It has a power switch. It has a battery, JST battery connector, which goes underneath the screen, and it has this awesome screen, which is a sharp memory display. And the awesome thing about that is it's like fast-ish, like an LCD, versus say e-ink, which is not fast to update. But it's low power, kind of like e-ink. So it's kind of this like middle ground of fast to update, battery efficient or power efficient, which I think is really cool. And it's also big. Like, I love the size of that. And then of course the best part of it is it has "Don't Panic" on the back, because that's just cool. And apparently also while you're in the firmware updating mode, it says "Don't Panic" on the screen. So that's fun. It is not production yet. This is a prototype, but this is, in theory, what the actual board will look like. Although, as I understand it, the production PCBs won't be purple or won't be available in purple. So got my limited edition purple. It's all PCB assembly. It is not hot swap, but chocs are pretty easy to solder. And just in my toying around with this or after I got it, but before before the stream, I poked a switch in here in one of these holes, and that's real good and tight without solder, which is awesome because in my experience, like without hot swap sockets, when you have to solder the switches, you put a bunch of switches in, you flip it over, and all your switches fall out. Whether you have a plate, whether you have whatever, it's annoying. So having the tolerances in the holes here tight enough such that a plate mounted or a PCB mounted switch will fit in there snugly and enough to hold on to it while it's being soldered, or while you're flipping it over to solder it. That's really awesome. It doesn't have any lights or anything other than it's got, your normal not pro micro, but like nice nano style charging LED for your battery and blue LED for like Bluetooth pairing and stuff like that. It has the display and a bunch of switches. It's pretty straightforward. This is my first 3x5, so I've had to shrink down my keymap a bit. And one thing I learned is that I can't type left open parenthesis because they're both, it's a layer, or it's a key on the layer key that this key activates. So I have to figure something out there, because I just took my normal 3x6 layout and chopped the outsides off. But it's also 2 thumbs instead of 3. Bootloader reset indication. Okay, well, I thought it also flashed when you were trying to pair it, but whatever. I don't pair my keyboard very often because I pair it to one thing. Just my iPad, although this will be getting paired with my Mac Mini as well because I don't have my iPad down here. And anyways, yeah, so I'm gonna stop talking, or at least stop just talking, and I'm gonna start putting this together. So it's solder only, no hot swap sockets, but really all you have to do is solder the switches and assemble the display stuff. So this has some pogo pins, which are like spring-loaded pins. You solder on one side and then compress the other side, and that holds the electrical connection in place. Although, to be honest, I don't know if Pete sent me enough of them, because there are more than 5 holes in this board and on the board here, and they're connected to stuff. It looks like, anyways. And I only got 5 here, so we'll see if that's right. I do have like the kind of beta build guide for this that I need to bring up. It's not public yet, so I'm not going to share it. Sorry, but I'm going to bring that up. So hopefully that will either address the fact that there's only 5, or will confirm to me that I didn't get enough. And if that's the case, then what I will do is I've got a ton of headers, since it's going to be compressed on there and not just held in place by the header itself. I'm going to see if I can't use my spring headers that I have and put some of them to good use, because holy crap, I spent a bunch of money on those things and I actually don't like them. So we'll see. Okay, open this. So I've got the thing, and because I built so many keyboards, I could do this without thinking about it probably, but I was asked to go through the build guide to make sure that it was reasonable and all that good stuff, so I'm gonna have to do that. Cool. So Zaphod build guide, blah 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 blah. If you haven't soldered before, I have soldered a few times before. Signed to work with the Adafruit memory display. Installation. First, attach the standoffs to the 4 mounting holes of the Zaphod PCB. So we have standoffs, and there's also some heat set inserts in this bag, which are meant to go with the, well, I think this is actually all case parts, but meant to go with the 3D printed case that is forthcoming for this. The actual production 3D printed case will have its own, they'll already be installed, so you don't have to do anything with those. But I don't have the case yet. I haven't even ordered it yet because, or no, I have ordered it, but I don't have it yet. So yeah. Let's see. so placing a screw up through the bottom of the PC, threading the female end of the standoff onto the screw. Okay. So these holes are kind of big for these screws. Maybe not. They just seem a little kind of loosey-goosey in there. Almost wonder if there should be a washer on the backside, but we'll see. It's probably not a big deal. Plus, there's no electrical contact here, so it doesn't need to be perfect. So we install these screws. It'll be really nice once this guide has pictures too, because I tend to just look at the pictures and be like, oh, okay, I'll make it look how that looks. Okay. For a second, I thought maybe I was doing this upside down, because the diodes are on the top on this board, which is a little unusual. But one thing that's nice about that is the back is then perfectly smooth, or at least smooth, free of components, so you can't rip off diodes or controller bits or anything like that, which is really handy for a portable keyboard, especially if you're running caseless. I will have a case for this, but that doesn't mean it's going to be permanently attached. Just means that I bought the case for it. Okay. Next, place the pogo pins. The rightmost hole of the Zaphod will not include a pin. Okay. 4 holes on the corners, slide over the male standoff. 8 pins. Okay, so the guide explicitly says solder the 8 pins of the pogo pin header from the bottom. There are only 5 pins here, so I don't have enough pogo pins. So Pete, if you're watching, more pogo pins. But that means I'm gonna grab a... Oh wait, no, this is the wrong place. Hang on. Okay, sorry. Before I do that, I put these in the wrong holes. These are just these 2. These are case mounting holes. Yeah, I really 3x5 plus 1 would be kind of cool. My only concern there is that involves a lot more cording than I typically do. And cording with heavy switches is hard, and I don't like light switches. Like, cording with heavy switches, you get fatigued very rapidly, in my experience. This I'm already going to have to do a fair amount of, and it's just a... I just kind of threw something together to guess, but I stole the enter key cord from the acetniop layout. So it's all 4 fingers on your home row on your right hand, because I figure like I can just kind of mash that and it's not that big of a deal. Excuse me, because I would normally have enter here and space here, but what I've done is I've moved space to here, gotten rid of enter, either tab or escape, I don't remember, tab or escape, I don't remember, and backspace. So then enter is all 4 of these, because I need all 5 of those to be readily available, because I use all 5 of them a lot. But I figure enter is probably the least used and more the least combined with other things. So like command tab, right? Because this is where my command key is on home row mod. So that's for, I use that a lot for, for alt tabbing between things. Backspace, I use all the time. I need to be able to hit that without a cord. Space, tab would be nice to do, or escape also would be nice to do without cording. If anything, I might switch escape and enter, because escape is also I don't use it often with by itself, or sorry, with other things, but I feel like I use it more when editing than I do enter, because I use Vim keybinds. I don't use Vim proper, but I use Vim keybinds, which means escape is used a lot. So we'll see. Well, see, Shift Enter isn't a big problem because Shift I can home row mod because Shift is here on my left hand. So Shift Enter. I mean, it's here on both hands, but it's here on my left hand. So Shift Enter. We'll see. I don't think I'm gonna end up sticking with the all four enter, just because, like, Robins are relatively heavy chocs, especially compared to G chocs. So who knows? It's gonna be it's an experiment. I may be like, I hate this keyboard, I'm not going to use it, I'm going back to 3x6. I don't know, but I am going to give this a college try, if for no other reason because I just think it's a cool ass keyboard and I'm looking forward to using it. So yeah. So I don't have, back to the headers, I don't have enough pogo headers, but I do have spring headers, and I'm going to go grab some of those. I spent way too much money on a bunch of these directly from Mac 8 in Japan, and I actually don't like them. I don't think this is enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, actually it is correct, because don't use the last one. So these spring headers, if you're not familiar with them, the idea is that they don't require solder. Let me see if I can get a better shot here. They don't require solder. They will kind of clip into place. But in my experience, that's dubious. But since the display here is being held on by something else, I'm hoping that they'll work. But just looking at the height difference here, I don't think these are going to work. I think they're too big. Let's see. Okay, so that goes down and gets soldered, and this comes on here and gets pressed. And that's what makes the electrical contact. Okay. But these are designed, so these here are designed to, because that'll sit up out of the board just a little bit, the bottom, and then the top, these don't go through the holes, they go against the holes because they touch the contacts here, so they get pressed down. Hello, Lorenzo. It's going fine. It's pretty warm here. My basement is not air conditioned and not enough air is leaking from upstairs, but that's fine. But see, these are much more meant for the header, or the thing gets pressed against the header on both sides. So I don't think these spring headers are going to work for this, which is good to know. They do make different heights of these, so you can get different, the headers of different thickness. I think why people chose these is because if you look at the pricing chart for these sizes, this is like, there's like a curve, kind of a, yeah, there's a curve, and this is the bottom of the curve. It's like the cheapest per pin or something like that. So, I'm a little conflicted here because if I solder this on, that battery is going to be really hard to unplug from the board. So using those pins is not necessarily the way to go. But I don't want to leave it off entirely because I want to use it. Yeah, I'm thinking about that. The point of pogos is so that you can get the screen off to get at the battery, because the battery goes under here and gets plugged into there. I mean, I ultimately I'm gonna just hard solder this, but I'm just trying to weigh the pros and cons. Because, like, you can't even really get to the JST connector very easily from with a screen there. Like, you can get the battery out, sure, but I mean, the JST connector, like, to undo it, it'd almost be easier just to desolder it entirely. But anyways, that's what I'm gonna do. So wish I had the correct number of pogo headers or pogo pins, but that's fine. I don't have one, but that is a good idea. This is the first keyboard or first anything I've built that has JST connectors. Because the little 301 230s, the nice nano batteries that everyone uses, I can't seem to get those with JST connectors. So I just have bare wires. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Measure twice, cut once. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I could do mil-max sockets. That's a great idea. I'm going to use mil-max sockets. I have a bunch of them, and then it makes it much easier to take on and off, and I don't have to worry about it like being too flexible or anything because it's going to be physically mounted on. So yeah, perfect. 10 points for Gryffindor. Okay. Of course, the one the one I want to keep falls on the floor. Okay. So make sure the alignment. So there are 9 holes on the board here, but this one on the far right doesn't get used. So I don't need to solder that one. Oh, and they fit real nice. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Pogo pins, rightmost hole. Okay, so real quick, I'm actually going to take some notes for Pete. Oh, I see. It's on the other side. Okay, cool. Is it tall enough with the standoffs? Well, since I'm using diode legs, it doesn't really matter how tall the header is, um, because the diode legs will be long enough. I only have to worry about with the diode legs if they're not straight, they might touch each other. But I'll go through after I'm done installing everything to make sure that it doesn't do that, which shouldn't be a problem. So here we go. We've got solder. Oh, I should turn on the fan. Move some of this crap out of the way. tin iron, clean tip. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of issue with my solder spool because it wants to fall off of the roll and then it gets caught and it gets really hard to pull on and it's annoying. And I wish it would just stay in place. There, okay. Happy little volcanoes. Okay. My iron is not treating me well right now. No, come on. Get off there. Okay. I didn't have a bridge or anything. It was just a ugly joint because it was too much solder and yeah. Hello, spam block. Got all kinds of people watching today. This is awesome. Okay. So the next step it says is to verify the pogo pin alignment before soldering. It's fine. So gently place the display on there and then add the 4 nuts. Okay. Okay, so I want to quick figure out what driver we need here. Nope. Perfect. Okay. And then just plop this on. Okay, so that's on there now. Oh, I must have hit the camera. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Okay, so I don't need this anymore. Sorry about that. Okay, rightmost hole will not include a pin from the pogo pins. Once display is fully tightened. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put in the notes here. Sorry, I'm talking to Pete now. Because maybe I could have used the pogo pins. I mean, it's too late. I'm not going to use the pogo pins. Sorry, Pete. I don't want to desolder the sockets. But if I could have used the pogo pins, I want to at least know. Okay. Okay. Okay, cool. So that is resolved. So, just a quick note there, the docks need to be updated. Only need 5 of these pins. So we've got 9 pins total here. You need 1, 2, 3. These 3 don't get used, and this one doesn't get used. So you just need the 5 in the middle. So I did have enough pogo pins, but since I've already soldered the Milmax sockets on, I'm just going to roll forward with that. I'll save those pogo pins for the official release version or something. I don't know. Do something. Yeah, I since this is a prototype, it's possible he'll change that for the actual finished build. But there's also some amount of like, want to leave it there because maybe someone will figure out a different display they can use here or something. I don't really know. Um, it's the only real confusing bit was the docks because the docks are not fully up to date. But that is one reason why I'm doing it this way with the docks is to find any issues with the docks, um, so that he can update those. Because otherwise, I'd be pretty much done by now. Because I would have just soldered everything together. I'm like, okay, I see how the display goes on here, and there's 9 holes and 9 holes. I've just soldered it all together and put the switches on, and we'd be typing away right now. But going through the docks is important. Also, it turns out that, or what he told me was that apparently display blanking is more energy usage or something like that. Um, so it doesn't need the other pins. I don't know. The TLDR though is that just don't need all those pins. My iron is not happy with me today. It just doesn't want to transmit heat very well. Okay, that's looking better. Since we're clipping diode legs, get our safety glasses. Whoops. Okay. So there is that, and I'm gonna put some of these things away. Okay, cool. All right, so poker pin soldered, unscrew the nuts, set the display side. Ah, okay. So I do need my. So what the guide is saying now is basically take the display off and set it aside so you can put all the switches on, flip it over, and then not damage the display. In my opinion, the way I would do that is solder all the switches first, then the display, and then you don't have to worry about that. But that's me. And there may be a very valid reason why Pete chose to go the other way around, and that's totally fine. Not trying to be like, oh, it's terrible. Just, that's how I would do it. Although it's probably less of a thing with pogo pins because this display would just pop right off rather than I have to unseat it from the sockets. Carefully. There. Okay. Oh, wait, that's right. Yeah, especially because battery, I'd say install the battery, then do the display. Do the display last. But it's fine. Okay, so back to the manual. Okay, acrylic plate case we don't have. So we can move with that. 3D printed shelf case is what I will be using for this, but I don't have. And really, oh, I see. So this is assembly switches. So this is actually saying to go ahead and move along with the switches. Now I see why he did this way, because there's probably with the plate case some shenanigans around the display and it's easier to do before assembly or something like that. So, okay, that's fair. Totally fair. So this is just saying put all the switches into the PCB, the fit should be snug, be sure to verify, and then flip it over and solder it. Okay, here we go. Also, okay. I really do love how snug these switches are into the board. It makes it so much nicer. Pete, you're hiking. Go back to hiking. Oh, he can't hear me anyways. Arg. The one downside to having my camera so close up is that I keep hitting it. And because the actual mount that the camera itself uses, not the arm and everything, is kind of garbage. So it pretty much freely rotates, which is bad. And I'm sorry, I just realized I shook the camera. Like intentionally shook the camera. Probably not a great idea. I tried to tighten it down really hard and ripped the threaded insert out of the camera body. So I had to glue it back in. This camera is just kind of, I want to get a different camera, but it's working for now. Arg. Sorry. See, with a better camera, I would just use a longer lens. So the camera itself would be physically further away, but still have the same framing. Because this is just a webcam, and it has a pretty wide angle lens on it. Because it's meant to be, sitting, a couple of feet away from my face and capturing my torso. Whereas this is about 8 inches off of the desk. Okay, so we've got all the switches in. I'm going to just push them down. I also love that I can shake the table now. And you don't really notice that on the camera because the camera is actually mounted to the desk. Okay. Now it's time for switches. Oh, whoops. I even have it like mapped out on here where the framing is. That's what the tape is. And I still managed to go off frame. Oh well. So yeah, that should be all of the soldering, I think. But we'll go look at the guide now. See what we've got. Okay, with all the switches soldered, place Zaphod PCB into the shelf case, fix PCB to the case. I don't have it. Shelf case. Okay, batteries. Here's a bunch of batteries. There's a battery. Purchasing, installation, JC connector, bare wires, status LED. Okay, so basically plug it in, silk label in front of the JST socket to remind you which wire should be on which when inserting the plug. Okay. Boom. Batteries in, and I already pre-charged this, so in theory it should be working right now. But it's turned off too, so that's good. Okay. Let's just turn it on real quick. Okay, I got blue light flash, so it works. Okay. Okay, one more note for this. Okay. Put this back on here. And get the nuts on and screw it down. Okay, and then put the caps on. Keep hitting the damn camera. Okay. Okay, actually, let's just turn it on. Don't panic. It works. So I think what it's sitting in is it's waiting for firmware update. But I'm not 100%, but it's fine. I'm just going to shut it back off until I put the caps on. Then I'm going to, I already went, and for once, I remembered in advance to do my firmware. So I did that. So I got a firmware built. I just need to download it from GitHub and copy it over to the board. I'm using red caps, or these red MBK color caps, mostly because I don't know if I have enough of black or white caps to do this. I have a lot of parts, and I don't have a strong idea of how many things I have. Like, I was originally going to put chalk whites on this, but I'm pretty sure I don't have enough chalk whites. But I just ordered some robins for a Curia build that I was going to do, so I scavenged the robins out of that order. So now I have to buy more robins for that build. But before I do any of that, what I'm probably going to do is what I keep meaning to do and never doing is a full inventory of all of my boards that I have yet to build to make sure that I have caps and switches and all the parts I need. Because I know I need some diodes. I know I need, like, I have a torn that I need a whole bunch of components for that I don't have. You know, fun stuff. Oh, wait, and I was gonna do, of course. Whoops. Well, that's one way to take apart a choc switch, I guess. Sorry, I'm just catching up with chat. The camera I have is a Logitech Stream Cam. It was, I Googled for like best webcams or whatever, and this one came up. It's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. More than likely, the next camera I get will be like a fancy mirrorless that I can change out the lenses with. And what did I do? I broke this already. Okay, so if you ever need to open a choc switch, a 1mm flathead screwdriver right next to the stem opens it right up. Oh, I think I see. Yeah. So what happened here is the click bar moved. It's not on the correct side of the thing. There we go. Okay. All right. All right. That should be a fully functioning switch or keyboard. I'm going to pop the little protective cover off of the display. And because it is a faceless board, at least for the moment, I'm going to put some bump-ons on it. Actually, hang on. Before I do any of that, got to get in the discipline of, like, put my tools away after I use them. Okay. Okay. Bump-ons. It's a peel. All right. Let's get this thing plugged in. Actually, before I do that, I need to download the firmware. Okay. Okay. So then what we need to do here is double click the firmware, the reset button. Nice. The default name for this is Heart of Gold. So if you're not familiar with flashing a nice nano, um, when you hit the reset button, it shows up as a USB thumb drive, basically, and then you drag the firmware over to it, and it resets the board. Well, this showed up on my desktop as Heart of Gold, which is a nice touch. Okay, got distracted. There we go. Zaphod UF2. Drag it over. Boom. It's uploading. Okay, so I thought Don't Panic was just when it was in the firmware upgrade mode. But I guess not. So now what we get to do, let's go back over to Safari, go to the stream, into the chat, and make sure, oh boy, this is fun. Make, wait, is that, oh, that shouldn't be enter. What is even happening? Okay, so the keymap is a little messed up, but it does type. Yeah, there's an offset, because there's HTN and then hyphen, so I like lost the S column and stuff. So there's still a little bit of work to do, for the firmware, but it does work. So now let's disconnect it from USB. No. This is my layout that I ported over. Um, so it's not the default layout anymore. I in fact don't know what the default layout was because whatever firmware was on there is gone now. Let's see. What am I looking for? What was I doing? Oh, Bluetooth settings. So it's on. No, now it's off. Now it's back on. So that's on Bluetooth profile 0. I'm going to connect it. It says it's connected. It says it's connected there. And I can not type. Although, given this is a Mac and I've had a lot of problems with Bluetooth keyboards, specifically ZMK Bluetooth keyboards, I'm yeah. I don't think the keyboard is broken or anything. I just need to mess with the config and yeah, mess with the firmware, mess with the config, and then I want to connect it to my iPad because that's what I use now as my main computer. I have a Mac Mini, but it's in the basement. It's just for streaming at this point. So yeah, but this is the Zaphod. As it says on the back and on the display, don't panic. I am very, very excited about this keyboard. I'm very happy that the stream went fine today, unlike yesterday. And I'm looking forward to getting the case. I ordered the case, and he says it's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks. So when that comes in, I will have a mini stream, or it'll be part of another stream or something like that where I'll put the case on. I need to figure out like streams that are multiple things. It's just like, hey, I'm going to build keyboards for an hour. It doesn't need to be like I'm building this thing end to end. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm going to go finish getting this all set up and firmwared and have some fun with that. I do. So one thing I want to really figure out, and this might get me into like more how this stuff works, is I want to figure out how to make it so I can flash the firmware on this with just my iPad, because the iPad does support USB thumb drive, USB mass storage devices. So in theory, I should be able to plug this in, double click reset, and then copy the firmware over. But for whatever reason, at least on my Revion 41, my nice nanoed Revion, that doesn't work. And I'd like to figure out why, because my long-term travel goals or plan has me carrying a keyboard and an iPad, so I'm not going to have easy access to a computer. Now, I could pull into a library and use theirs because it's public repo. I can download the file from GitHub and put it on the keyboard there, but I'd really rather not have to depend on someone else's computers to be able to program my keyboard if I can avoid it. So I want to try to figure some of that out. Plus, it might be just kind of fun to dig into that stuff. I don't know if it's a ZMK limitation or something with the bootloader. I'm not really sure the stack, how the software all works on the boards. But I might sit down and try to figure that out at some point. Or it's possible that like it's just a bug that nobody's fixed yet because there's nobody trying it as much as I would like to on an iPad. So we'll see. But anyways, that is the build. Have a moderately working keyboard at this point. I'll figure out the firmware stuff. I'll pair it up with my iPad, and yeah. And it's hot in this basement. Oh my god. It's 95 degrees outside right now. It's supposed to get up to 108. So it's I'm gonna go back up in the air conditioning and work at my desk for a little while. Thank you all for showing up. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Pete, for the opportunity um, to get an advanced copy of one of these, because I'm super excited about this board. I have been, and like, yeah, it's just really cool. Um, anyways, yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a stream. And thank you all for coming, and have a good one. Bye.